Alright, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dave Graham and welcome to Elemental Collision. Today, I'm fooling around with some new equipment, so we're actually recording this on the camcorder with a spotlight and a cam mic. Craziness. So all that to be considered. Got my coffee, got my crazy ass hair. I want to spend a little bit of time talking to you today about, I don't know, shooting the shit really. So a lot of what goes on here is work. It's a lot of work. This year has obviously gone sideways for everybody. We don't have the same anything really. It feels like, the world has changed. There's not a lot of, well, it seems like hope, that kind of, we're going to get through this kind of attitude. A lot's happened, a lot's changed. A lot of people have been affected in ways that we don't even know the full story yet. So part of what I wanted to, talk about today, in the limited amount of time, this will be super brief, is that we've been doing a series on community. And community is very intentional. One of the things that we have the capability of doing as human beings is to isolate ourselves away. Maybe not in the true sense of isolation, like the monks of yore, right? Go lock myself in a cell and, call it even. But a lot of it, so we tend to isolate ourselves through things, right? We can isolate ourselves through hobby. We can isolate ourselves through work. As we've talked and as you've heard from people, a lot of what we do is we tend to find places to go that cut us off, that cut out the noise, cut out the pain a lot of times, whether that be from other people or for things that happen to us, external forces, if you will. So we've talked through a little bit of community, the concept of being fake fine. I can put a smile on my face and I can present to the world something that I want the world to see, but that's not truly what's going on. So when we kind of flip that around and we start to look at things like isolation, we run into situations like we have today, where I'm in this little room. Relatively big room, but it's my office slash workplace slash, as you can tell, all this shit, workplace or home. My bedroom's right behind this door, behind this wall actually. This is my spot. Out the window I can see across the next apartment. I can hear kids screaming, crying, depends on if they've fallen or not, or laughing, right? But this is my little bubble. This is where I'm at. So in a sense, I have my isolation. Things I can't do from here. I can have conversations on the phone, I can have them via Zoom, I can talk to you, a disembodied audience that I probably don't know anything about. But in a sense, I'm choosing to do this, right? I'm not out, hanging around in the park, social distancing notwithstanding. I'm not out doing too many things because right now I want to be alone. I want to be who I am by myself. Not with anybody else, not with external people looking at me, looking at my life. I want to do things for me. But on the flip side of this, as I said before, we're really great at doing this. We're really great at pulling ourselves into isolation. It takes a lot of effort and energy to kind of go out there and do more, be more, act more. And when we talked about fake fine, we talked about that impetus of people to plaster a smile on their face and go out there and be something that they're not being authentic. It's really a play. It's really an act. It's a scene, something that we do. I was always impressed when I was a kid that character is what you do when no one else is looking. So in essence, we're saying that being fake fine or this act is less of character and more of creative lying. Indeed, all art is creative lying, right? It's representing a reality that is, to you, personal, but to somebody else has different meaning, right? It's your version of truth transposed into stage, into media, into whatever, and it's not necessarily accurate or true to anybody else. So we find ourselves in this dichotomy. I can pull myself back, I can remove myself from the community at large, the community people I live with, the larger community of the town I live in, the larger community of the state I live in, the country I live in, the region I live in, the world I live in. And that's okay. I'm doing this authentically. I'm doing this with character. I'm saying, hey, I'm not okay. Or I want to be alone. I need to recharge. I made some passing comment about introversion versus extroversion last time, and a lot of people throw around, oh, you're an INFP or an ENFJ or any of these kind of Myers-Briggs derived personality tests or terms, which, those instruments, those inventories are very, very good, but they're also misconstrued a lot. So we seem to think that extroverts are always going to be extroverted, that they're always going to be seeking out the company of others in order to interact, in order to change, in order to have volition and capabilities and being able to do whatever they can do and to express that kind of connectivity to the rest of humankind. And introverts, on the flip side, we're always looking at as being the ones that are social, pariahs or the, wallflowers. They don't actively seek out attention. They don't actively seek out the attention of others. They want to be withdrawn. They always want to stay to themselves. And the reality of those two dichotomy, or two characteristics, if you will, are completely wrong. See, an introvert, and I'm an introvert, can still find and derive pleasure and enjoyment from being in the company of others. And it absolutely is true. I enjoy the people I am around when I choose who I'm around. I enjoy the company of others when I'm in a large crowd of other people. I can look and I can see and I can perceive and I can feel some sort of, ennui, if you will. Just as an extrovert can pull themselves back and not always have to be around hundreds of people, not always have to be the life of the party, not always have to be, this alpha type person, right? And I can, exist on both sides. But really what it comes down to is the fundamentals of where people derive the most energy, where they recharge, where they become. For some extroverts, they can become recharged by a small collection of good people. Their small tribe, their community, their people, right? That's my people. We hear it say and characterized or, caricaturized, if you will, on Twitter and social media and whatever. In the same way, introverts can find and draw their strength from quietness, aloneness, me being here, talking to a camera. I can derive some level of energy from this. I can recharge. As a matter of fact, I can recharge here by myself, in my bed, sleeping, staying away from people. But what I miss the most in these moments is truly community. It's not that I want to be separate all the time. When I'm recharged, I want to go find the people that I have connection with, whether they be anonymous to me or whether they be personal. In the same way, an extrovert, as they recharge, they may want to pull back and be with just a few people or with a large amount of people. Anonymous in the crowd is an amazing place to be, because you can be who you are. There's no insight of people looking at you going, oh, I wonder what the fuck's wrong with them, like in all these situations that we kind of derive from. So I think when I'm driving and kind of round out the conversation that we're having here, a one-way conversation, me talking to you, of course, I think a lot of what we look for as a continuation of that fake fine conversation, the introvert versus extrovert, the finding your tribe, the finding your community, I think a lot of what we're looking for and what we're looking at is we're looking at those things that make us whole, or that feel like they make us whole, that fill us with energy, that recharge us, that bring us the joy and completeness that we thought we needed, or that we know we need. Just as I can go out and I can go interact on Twitter, and Lord knows I've done a lot of this recently, there's a comfort for me, there's a recharging and momentary conversation. The same thing on Reddit. There's a level of anonymity where I can go in and I can say my piece and then leave. Twitter a little less so, because my Twitter handle is my name, so people are going to not naturally associate that with me. But when I step into some of these other forums, I can have conversations, and they may be one-sided, they may be very, very disjointed, but I can have conversations that are protected by that kind of aegis of no one knows who I truly am. And that way I can kind of, if you will, let my freak flag fly. There's an alliteration for the record. But I can go and be something that perhaps I cannot do through my Twitter feed. Or I'm Dave Graham. I'm this technology messaging guy who occasionally writes stuff for a blog, who says stupid shit every now and then, and you know what I mean? In the same way, an extrovert can find that kind of recharging into those things. I know plenty of extroverts that can sit in a seat at a desk and have conversations online for hours and hours and hours a day, leave that, and not have to go into the outside world. That kind of flips the model on its head, doesn't it? The life of the party doesn't necessarily have to be the life of the party. It can be the life of an online situation. All this to be said, when you kind of look at the aspect of being in community, when you look at the personalities that emerge in a community, whether they be alphas, betas, or, and I really hate using those type of terms, type A personalities, type B personalities, the leaders, the followers, the servants. Ooh, can we use that word? I'm not going to use some of the other words that are out there, but servant leaders is a good example of something that's useful. But when I look at the entire broad swath of the types of people out there, the beautiful part about community is that we're all unique. We all have these different ways of expression, these different moments that we choose to step out and be, how we choose to step back and become. So my challenge to you in the weeks ahead, and whether or not this gets posted or not, and it's just me spouting out a whole bunch of words and testing out some video equipment as well, my challenge to you in the coming week is to also look at how do you fit within this community? What do you look like? Not physical features, but how does your personality express itself? How does what you are manifest itself in community? And if you're willing to choose to think about that and willing to kind of process through it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Dave, I thought about it this week and I figured out that I'm maybe not as extroverted as people classically define me as. Or maybe, Dave, I'm more of an introvert. I actually like being pulled away and by myself. I'd rather read a book than sit at a bar. By the way, I like bars. Don't get me wrong. So find your place. Ask yourself the tough questions of how you are in community, because as we as we have already started, as we continue to go through these conversations, whether they be one-sided or whether they be engaging, we're going to start probing the natural aspects of what community looks like, both from a personal to a social level. And I think within there you're going to find some amazing little bits and pieces of that overall mosaic that we've been talking about, who we are and how we fit into the grand picture. So from me to you on this overcast, cloudy, it was slightly raining earlier, Massachusetts Sunday, just wanted to wish you a great week. Work your ass off, do your best, take care of yourself, your loved ones, people that matter to you the most. Wear a mask, it saves lives, don't be a stupid shit.